how did you happen to end up here, and a little bit about your background?
Well,
You tell them where you know, born.
well,
I'm gonna go and find the church that we were confirmed and baptized and married.
You were born south of Kindred, weren't you?
He was up in the Sandhills.
I was born a little way away from the old church.
Oh.
About a quarter mile south and then a mile west.
And that's where you grew up?
Yep. And then I run into Alice, you know, and we landed down here.
How did you land here? How did you
Well,
choose?
this here used to be my dad's thing. So we had two farms, one by Kinners and one here.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Gold Church is where you folks used to be.
Yeah. We were the first ones to be married in that church. So every time they had a deal, we had to get married again. We were married 3 times. That's
What
the
year
old
did you
church.
move up here, Tollof?
31.
1931.
In March. Got stuck in the mud.
Yeah, oh, I knew I'd come to what before I moved down here.
I know it.
We had plenty come up by Kinner too.
My folks, my dad was his father's attendant when he was married. And you should have seen the nice letter that he wrote to, I tell you, they could write in those days too.
We got
Had a
them
good
around here
hand, yes.
someplace.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, when you moved here, how did you get hooked up with Horace Church?
Well, we belong to St. John up here, you know.
Oh, that was where you were first.
Yeah.
At
And
St.
that
John.
one is in West Fargo now.
Mhm.
And
Well, we left that before, but we had to, because Gregory was the only child to be confirmed, because the other 2 didn't come. And Storston said, I'll teach him and I'll take him to Kindred. Well, I said, why should we go to Kindred all the time? That far. So then we went out from Horace then, from St. John's, and went to Horace. We didn't like it very well, but.
well, we were in the doghouse for many years, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
But it was, you could see what was happening. The membership was getting pretty low
For
up
sure.
there. And it was one thing that we tried to get the merger before, didn't we?
yeah, sure.
Well, you know, Gig Storston was here for, I don't know why he come here for, but he was sitting eating lunch here, you know, while St. John is going to be there. We'll stay there if I go to support it myself.
Mm.
We lived long enough to support.
No.
No, then when we left Gold, they weren't gonna let us go there. So we had to go into the Fargo and find out if they could keep us. And one guy, he was not gonna let us go.
It's that
He was
effect.
president. Since we couldn't drive down there. But we were both baptized and confirmed in that church. And my folks and his folks, they were chums all the time. Your dad was born in Norway.
My dad was born in Hallingdal, Norge. You understand that? Hallingdal? You know where that is?
No, where is that at?
That's in Gol, Norway.
And how old was he when he moved over here?
Here?
No, when he come to this country?
Kindred.
When I come to, when my dad come to this country, when my dad come to this country, he was 7 years old.
7. And did he come right to this area?
No, They landed in Spring Grove.
Hold on, Jimmy.
That's where we had some relations, you know. And then they stayed there for, I think, 6 years. And then when my dad was 12 years old, then they moved up to Kinner. That was Dakota territory then, you know. Well, that's all I got. What do you got today?
Well, a lot more than that. My mother came from Norway when she was a year old. Of course, she didn't know anything about it. And they came down to, where was it again? Where did they land the first time?
Huh?
Where did they stay for a while? Then, well, then anyhow, when they got here, they had a covered wagon and horses, and they had a little stove, and we still had that down the basement here. When they would, I can't remember the town, the place they were. Can you? I'll have to look it up.
You were long.
You weren't alone, man.
Was it in Minnesota, Alice?
I should look it
Well,
up.
you
Well,
know,
that's all right, it doesn't.
No.
Did your folks come from Spring Grove? No.
Came from Norway.
Oh, they didn't come from Norway to Walcott.
No. Dad, we still have that place in Norway. It's still got the oldest place there. Because we've seen pictures of it. And there's a church there, and a house there, and a cemetery there, and there's 3 buried in that cemetery. And there's a fence around it. And that's where my father was living there, you see. But his mother died, his father died. And his oldest sister had gone to North Dakota. I don't know where she landed, but she was, and so when my dad got to be, when he was 15, no, it wasn't 15, he was 8 years when he and my dad came. And so she raised him until he was 15. Now you're growing up, you get out and take care of yourself. That's the way it was in those days.
Well, we got a book here. It's practically all my relations, you know. And my sister Gunnar, she has long hair, you know. And the captain, when they come across, you know, the captain of the ship, he wanted her to take down her hair and show him how long it was. Well, it reached to the floor.
She did
And
beautiful hair.
she still had,
She did.
she still had that hair when she died.
She did. And my dad was a twin. And I don't know the rest of the family didn't really know that until lately when we started into the getting history, you know. Then they knew that somebody was a family, or a twin, but they didn't know. Well, my dad had a twin sister up at Clover. No,
I thought it was old.
no, up at Clover, North Dakota. Up in there. And then they found out, just among those as they found out that he was a twin. And I saw her once, my aunt, she came down to see us. And then Dad died, and 6 weeks afterwards, she died. I don't know.
Well, you know, Alice's folks, and my folks, you know, who was there attending? Your folks were
Your folks were his attendants. Don't you remember your father's nice letter that he had written? So you got married before Mama and Dad did, you know? Not too long before. But who was Mom and Dad's attendants? I don't know. I know this one.
I'm curious, when you joined the church here in town, the Horace Church, Can you remember what that was like for you to start worshiping there and how the people received you?
Well, they did, because, you see, we were with them quite a bit more anyway, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that we weren't strangers when we came in there.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't like it very much back there. They wouldn't even look at us. They walked across the street when we met us in town.
Mm.
And that's-
They felt bad that you had
They
left
did.
their church.
Yeah, sure.
Uh-huh.
Because they were trying to keep that church and then that Christiania church, you know. Christiania was just as mad at us, because we were the ones that went first, you know. And that's what we were the ones that pulled out everything. One lady told me afterwards, I let her say whatever she wanted. I didn't have to do the same thing.
Is the show going to show the public in?
You bet. You bet. You gotta look your best.
Oh boy.
Oh, no, don't worry about it, Tollof.
We'll be in the same boat if that's the case.
No, no, we don't have that. No.
Say, does that light, or do you want it on?
It's okay.
You can turn it on now. So I don't.
Yeah.
Now, you came from a different church in a way too. Now, was Horace still a Howdy
No,
church at the time you came?
no,
I don't
no.
know if they were-
Run.
No, it was thrown, yeah, but you see, we changed then to the evangelical. We used the Lutheran hymnal.
Yeah.
That was the same as they had in St. John's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still, the service was a little different.
They're a little bit different.
Well, you know, at the certain meetings, you know, then people come from Landstads, you know. That was one hymn, and one synod,
Yeah.
synod or Landstad. That was two different.
That was Norwegian, see, mostly Norwegian.
I told you don't Landstad, that you don't get anything out of that.
No.
And synod,
That's same as Synod, see,
Sure.
Synod.
There was a
Synod.
Senate hymn book.
Yeah. But we had the black hymnal, wasn't it? Wasn't that what we had
Yeah.
when you joined here? Lutheran hymnal.
And then my dad came down to Walcott. They had a farm there, so that's where they lived when they were first married. And he had a store in Walcott. And he was into everything, you know. Well, then, they were there for quite a while. Well, all the kids were born there excepting the last 4 of us. They moved down to where you know where the mill was? Did you ever do that?
Not really, no.
the water tank, you know where the water tank was.
I know, I heard about the mill every time the dam busted because Dad had to go and take his bridge up. He had a bridge across the river, the cattle go across.
Then Dad, we bought 2 homes there. One we lived in and then one back of the park there kind of, you know. And the mill was there. So Dad had a store. And he had rooms upstairs, so he had somebody living upstairs. And then he had another house right alongside of it, so there was people living there. But we were in a different place. And that's where we were raised. And did we have fun? It was, they call it Brush Town because there was so many people there. They worked at the library, or the railroad, you know. And we even had a big, what do you call it, car. We had, what darkies?
There you go.
Dagoes, yeah. They worked there. And on Sundays,
They worked on the track, you know.
and on Sundays, they baked. Under the, see, they dug out right under the road, by the railroad. And you
Well,
should,
there was a steel culvert, you know.
but you should see the nice loaves of bread they pulled out on mud shovels. Oh, that's the nicest bread. And we were 14 of us from there when we went to school. We had to walk 2 miles. And Dad kept on there for a long time. He was into everything. We had the store. We didn't do anything with the mill. Then the mill closed, I don't know why. And we had a pearl hunter that came every summer. He'd come down there. And he'd be finding pearls. And we'd go down there and visit with the pearl hunter, and we had a lot of bums, whatever you want to call them, down by the dam there. We weren't afraid of them. We would go and sit and play with them and talk to them. And they'd just walk around there. We weren't afraid of anybody. Walking home at night.
And they stole the chicken. They stole chicken from, they had a big fish line, you know, and they'd throw that across the river, you know, and they had the bait on the end of it there, and chicken ate and they got stuck in the mouth, you know.
Pull the fish, chicken.
They pulled it in, they had chicken for dinner.
Yeah, that was. And we had people that come from miles and miles to the mill, you know, with their feed. We had company at our house all the time. They'd sleep on the floor, they'd sleep upstairs on the barn, and because it went so far they had to stay overnight. Mother always had somebody, but she didn't mind. And then, I don't know.
Well, you know,
Finally, the post office.
like they said in Norwegian, you know, where the hjerterom er altså husrom. Where the room in the heart, in your heart.
That's
They
all
got
room.
room for you in the house.
And Dad would bring people in for dinner, for lunch, whatever it was. Mama would be washing clothes all over the floor in the kitchen, and they were inside and ate. But they had a good time. Well, that,
Now, during that time, what church did you belong to?
we
Whoa.
were, oh,
And so both of you were raised in the Gold
Mhm.
Church. Do you remember what was Sunday school like for you down there, or
Oh, we didn't go.
confirmation?
yeah, we had to
Well,
walk a couple months to confirmation.
Well, you know, every,
We didn't have Sunday school.
we didn't have Sunday school when I,
No, we didn't.
and, well, our minister, you know, every Sunday when we had to line up along the aisle, you know, on each side, so it'd be two rows. And, well, of course, we had to know our book, you know, because he was walking back and forth, you know, asking questions, you know.
And we never knew what it was gonna ask.
Huh?
We never knew what it was gonna ask.
No.
You had confirmation on Sunday then?
Yeah, we were at confirmation.
It was sort of a catechism.
That was every Sunday during the winter that we had people get up, line up in the line there, you know, by the seats, and then he'd
Uh-huh.
ask us.
Was this after church or before
No, it was
church?
during church.
During
Everybody
service.
sat there.
During services, in front of all the other people?
Yes.
That was,
Every Sunday.
this took place before the service, before the.
Well, I don't know, we were in the church services was going on, I know that.
You never had parochial school in the summer either?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
6
we had
weeks.
6 weeks of it.
Yeah, we had a month.
And you walked out there too, believe me. And then when we started confirmation, well, I was pretty lucky though. They decided, they closed they excused us for our being confirmed. And we could go up to see the school we had, you know, they had upstairs on it.
Mhm.
People lived up there. We went up there and ministered in us there. But boy, we had to know our lessons. Believe me.
Yes.
That's like with Gregory, he said, why you sure are a joy killer. Because he wasn't allowed to go to a baseball game or on Friday if he didn't have his lesson.
What did you have to know? What was your lesson?
Well, he would, didn't be so much at the time, you know. But not when we went up to the floor there. Then he just asked us anything, we never knew what was coming.
Well, you know, it was this year, like it wasn't, this was all Norwegian, you know, when we were, Bible history, you know,
Yeah.
that was one, but for plotting.
That was the catechism and what do you say it in English?
Catechism.
Well, yeah, you had the catechism and then you had the explanation.
Luther's meaning.
Yeah. and
Of course, we had that.
then you had Bible history.
And we had to tell one story every time. And believe me, you had to know your lesson too, or else what you were assigned, and that was okay too.
Well, you had to be posted on just about everything because you didn't know when the preacher was going to ask
That's
you.
right.
When you say or else, what would happen if you didn't know your lesson?
You wouldn't be confirmed till you learn it.
That's it.
No, they
You would
tell
they would tell you, you know, right out that if you don't know it by confirmation, you don't get confirmed till next year. You go one more year.
Yeah, but do you know something? When Gregory was confirmed, there were 2 boys there that hadn't been going to Sunday school. They were up here, you know. And the minister from there came and asked me about it. I didn't really want to say anything. He says, they did get confirmed. And I said, yes, they did. Well, you know, they've only shown up twice. You know, Gregory could, I will say this for Gregory, he could have said everything he did. Remember when he was asked? Then that one minister, see, he gave him what they were supposed to, what he was going to ask him. But he never told Gregory. And Gregory could have read the whole confirmation class, the whole, the plotting. But he knows everything, somebody said back of us. And he used to say, yeah, you're a joy killer, he used to say to us. His kids are the same way. They really know. Yeah. And they're interested in Bibles. They've got so many Bibles and history stories over there, and then they come over here and ask them.
You mentioned about pastors. Have you known quite a few different pastors then since you've been a member here? Dalvin was the minister when we joined.
Anderson was the minister here, you know, when we first come here.
Anderson.
Anderson.
Yeah. Up here.
Yeah, here, yes,
He had St. John and Norman and Christiania.
yeah.
He had 3 churches.
So I don't know.
So then when you joined at Horace, then Dalvin was the pastor.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you've had several since then. Is there anything special about any of these pastors that you'd like to tell about or share that you remember?
Well, see, you never had turmoil in Horace. Janet had turmoil. And believe me, you know, in Horace, you know what they used to do? The parents would tell them when they were to be confirmed. Don't you remember that? Whether they were ready or not. They were supposed to be.
Is that right?
Yes. Well, Turmo didn't do. The kids would say, well, when are we going to be confirmed? You will be confirmed when you're ready for it. And I know our daughter, Gladys, Janet, you know, she was confirmed. Boy, she said, he was good.
They normally set, when I was confirmed, it was pretty much every year that was in June. Confirmation date was set, and that was, I don't know if it was set by by the council or the pastor or what. But then they
I
changed it,
believe
and
it.
then they had the confirmation on Pentecost for a while. So,
As a rule, confirmation up in Gold, that was in June.
yeah, that was June for us all the time.
Yeah, but you had to know what you were going to
Oh, yeah.
up to do, that's for sure. And that was fine. We could, all those Bible stories, I don't know, they haven't been, they they do it now, I wouldn't doubt it. I think you know, please. And I think that's what's needed.
The Lutheran doctrine, I suppose that is instilled in us. That's it.
But, Dalvin was pretty easy to.
Dalvin was very easy going.
Very
Yes, he
easy.
was very easy.
That's one reason I was just sick to think we had to take him away from, see, who was in Horace then? In
That
St.
was
John's.
Nissen.
And he was good.
Yeah.
Did you know Pastor Nissen?
Yeah.
Oh.
They had been on him. And then Gregory was the only one that got to go, the others weren't coming. Their parents didn't care and they didn't care, so they didn't come. And we weren't gonna take just him and go down to Kindred.
Boy, we run into Pastor Nissen in Kmart seen Alice first.
I saw the smile, but I couldn't figure out
Boy,
who it was.
oh boy. You could recognize him by his smile, you know.
Yes.
What boy, hey,
He got his back.
boy, so fat.
Is too many visits and too much good coffee and food. He does that sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
But he's still got that nice smile, doesn't he?
Oh, does he ever?
Yeah.
You don't really know me. Well, I said, I know that smile, I says, but I can't figure out that that's you. It's carrying it because
Yeah.
it's so bad.
I would be curious, as you look back on your time here now at Horace Lutheran Church, what do you remember as some high points, a good time as you belonged here?
Oh, we had a lot of good times. It seemed like, I really think we worked together better in those times.
In what way? What did you do?
Well, there wasn't somebody that was saying, we can't do this, we gotta do that, we gotta do this. That's the way it started out then after a while. Remember? We got along so fine that way.
So you enjoyed working together?
Yeah, I
with
did.
You're talking about the ladies group then,
Yes.
that worked together?
Well, the men too were real good.
Uh-huh.
They'd come and help us and, you had, you used to put on some meals too.
Yeah.
Well, you know, we had a blame good brotherhood in Horace.
For a long time.
Well, I don't know why that went haywire. Well, you know, that was one, I blame that on to one preacher we had.
Probably.
What do you remember about the brotherhood that was good for you, Paula?
Well, we had the program every time we had a meeting, you know. And talk about this and that, you know.
You used to have, you bring your wives along once a year, isn't it?
Well,
Everything we've done, the money we raised for the church, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So,
No, and it seemed like when we got together with Norman and that, we mingled together, we worked together. Now it's different. It seems like people have been moving in and they don't, you know, aren't so well acquainted. We knew all those people down by Norman and that.
well, you can understand, Horace had only 90 people for years and years, and now there's over 500, you see. So it isn't a close-knit community like it was for years.
No, it isn't.
Because it's so many strangers. But as time goes, they'll get acquainted and we'll be the same. It's up to us, I guess, to just mingle and get acquainted.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
The trouble is, I shouldn't say this, but there's cliques.
Well, yeah, you can think so, but I think it's because you sit with the ones that you've always sat with. I know Jerry has stressed that we should mingle more, get together more, and that's the whole deal. You can't expect the young ones to come and sit down with you.
No, but they
It's
can
us
get
that's got to
together.
go and get acquainted with them. Yeah. So it's, I don't think it's any different than it ever was. Only thing I think is better now is those young people have something to say.
Well, I'm glad that they have never been noticed as much as they are now.
That's
Now
right.
they're, you know what they want, what you want them to do, and they're doing it. Before, you know, we had a hard time sometimes if they said we're going to go to leave. Well, in the 2 years we had them, but they stayed with us.
You got a dandy bunch of young people that are really working and doing a good job,
Yeah.
right?
So,
You bet.
We've been kind of talking about some changes, and you folks, Alice and Tollof, have seen a lot of changes in your lifetime. Are there any changes that you're kind of glad to see that they happened? Some changes that were for good?
well, I'll tell you, one was that